Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow, who is not covered in mayonnaise. I'm Joe Ovies. How was your Duke's Mayo Bowl experience outside of the no-show from North Carolina?
I loved it. It was great. Those are my people, They get it.
Yeah.
They understand college football. And I love the way that they lean into the dumbest, and I mean this so lovingly, like the dumbest parts of college football.
Sure.
Because by the way, the fact that this sport does not take itself that seriously is one of the things I like the best about it. And I think when you run into people who like college better than the NFL in terms of college football, I think this is the biggest reason why, is because silly season is so fun.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And I actually had tweeted this out earlier today because I feel like you're one of two types of college football fan that's out there. You're the type of person who watches the Duke's Mayo Bowl and you're watching because you want to watch somebody get mayo dumped on them, or you're Dennis Dodd, who says, my God, we've reached the point where hyping a condiment being poured on an adult male passes for programming. When we have the discussion about bowl relevance, I'll start right there. Of course, that's kind of a trick question, considering that bowl relevance really is relative, is it not? Bowls have never really mattered in the grand scheme of things. We do this for the fun. We do this for the exhibition aspect of it, is to see two teams that you might not typically see play. And you just look for some entertainment. And frankly, the Mayo Bowl is the peak of college football entertainment.
Yes. And if I ever get to a point where I can't find joy in something like a coach getting mayonnaise dumped on them, I'm going to need someone to intervene on my behalf.
Is it time for you to retire?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And Dennis is mostly an NFL reporter, right?
No, he's a college football guy.
Is he college? I'm sorry.
That's the thing. He's a college football guy. You've been covering college football for as long as you've been covering college football, and you can't enjoy the frivolity.
That's a very NFL reporter mindset. That was the reason it was throwing me.
Did you see Dabo after the Cheez-It Bowl?
Yeah. That was a great thing.
Dabo was living it up with Cheez-Its. Yeah. As he should.
And by the way, the mayo dump was just as gross as I thought it would be, and wonderful. The tweet I had about what the mayo, how much mayo it would be, the consistency would be like.
Yeah.
That is one of my most.
By the way, you got
my
stats.
Analytics on it, and my God.
Seriously, Lauren, you got stats on this.
Woof.
Got serious stats on this.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, look at that. Nearly 6,000 likes on this?
So, yeah.
Almost 2,000 retweets? Does
pass as programming, Dennis. Okay.
So you did some reporting before the game to find out just exactly what went into that mayo tub, huh?
Yes, and by reporting, I just talked to my friends from the Duke's Mayo Bowl and was telling them how excited I was and whatever. And they were like, well, we're going to have to take the coach to the tunnel, but this is what the mayo is going to be like so that we can get it. Because the thing is, you can't just dump the Duke's Mayo without it having some, you would have to be, everybody's had mayo. You'd have to really hit the bottom of that jar to get it to come out. It would be really awkward.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And they brought Shane Beamer to the back after the ceremony thing. So a couple things about this. I feel like we should do a little play-by-play here on the dumping of the mayo. All right, first and foremost, I have a problem. The biggest problem is Shane. You have to take the hat off.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. That's like a cop-out. Mayonnaise on your shoulder and your back, all that kind of stuff. Whatever. And I feel like the fact that he wore a hat is the reason why, if you pay attention, dude's in the concussion protocol after the tub of mayo hit him in the back of the head.
Yeah, seriously. No, we said that live. We were like, oh my God, they hit him with it. So it was just perfection, all the way around. He's okay. I saw him after the game walking around just fine. So he's thankfully fine.
You sure about Are you sure he's okay?
He seemed just fine. Very happy.
All right, good. Good.
Yeah, well, I saw him when I snuck onto the field. I saw him walking through with
also, shout out to Mike Golick Jr.
Yes.
Who took mayo eating to another level by dunking Oreos and donuts and various other things with Duke's mayo. And it's funny. I'm just waiting for the Darren Ravel tweet to give me the amount of money, the value of free advertising that Duke's mayonnaise got based on social media, because My timeline was nothing but Mayo tweets for like 3 to 4 hours. I loved every minute of it. And I'm not exactly a mayonnaise guy,
See,
but
I
I love
am.
seeing
I
all
love
the Mayo
mayonnaise.
stuff.
I love mayonnaise, and I love Duke's mayonnaise specifically, and they're not paying me to say that. Like, that's just legit the mayonnaise I eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like I was here for all of this, and it was great, and I enjoyed it. And I snuck onto the field, even though I didn't have a pass, to take a picture on the.
Have you posted that photo yet? Because I know you sent it to me.
No, I need to.
You gotta post. You gotta post that photo.
In the Y'all Star throne. So I love everything about it.
Nah, I was a fan. I was a fan of everything that happened with the Mayo Bowl, all the ridiculousness around the Mayo Bowl. But Carolina fans are not happy with the way the game went for North Carolina.
See, by the way, it's not always a good thing to play your last game state. You could do something like this, and then it's real bad.
I feel like there's a separate conversation about the week that was for NC State and how North Carolina's no-show in the Duke's Mayo Bowl is tied to that. But we'll couch that for later. We can talk about the actual game. I will admit that I was surprised at the way Carolina looked unprepared for what South Carolina was going to throw at them, considering the COVID issues, opt-outs, lack of QB. I was surprised at how unprepared they look, especially in Charlotte for what I'm assuming will be Sam Howell's last game. Again, another conversation we can catch for later. But for the actual game itself, it was, as the kids would say, not a good look for the Tar Heels.
No. And yeah, after the game, Mac had said that Joyner was not somebody they prepared for playing quarterback. He had not thrown a pass all year. So it's not quite, and somebody in the press box I was talking to brought up the Jeff Sims situation too at Georgia Tech, where after the game they had said they had no idea he was playing. Mm-hmm. That one to me is a little different than this one, just in the sense of everybody. I mean, I remember people talking about Jeff Sims playing. I don't remember reading anything about Joyner potentially playing quarterback. However, at a certain point, like you said, you probably got to at least go up and down the roster and go, okay, who has played quarterback before? Like Joyner has played the position for South Carolina in college and was a 4-star quarterback recruit. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Dina King from Tar Heel Illustrated for like looking some of this up, because she's like, I feel like he was pretty good quarterback. And then we looked it up, and sure enough, like, yeah, he was like Mr. South Carolina in football or something. Like, He was a good quarterback. And so, yeah, in hindsight, it probably is pretty wild that they had no idea that he would play quarterback.
I feel like the first half for North Carolina was the greatest hits for all the things that have annoyed UNC fans all throughout the season, whether it was defensive breakdowns, very poorly timed penalties that took them out of field position, Sam Howell not being protected on top of also holding the ball a little too long.
Yeah, he was a little indecisive throughout. I think there was a sense from Sam. This is just an assumption on my part. Mm-hmm. That he really wanted to impress people. Not just impress people, but he really wanted to go out strong. Yeah. He really wanted to play well.
And it totally makes sense.
He carried them. Yep. But he can't do it by himself.
But that's been North Carolina's season.
Yeah. And he was, the only thing that I noticed with Sam is he was I thought earlier in the year he was a little more decisive when it came to deciding when to run or throw. And it felt like he was not quite sure a lot of the times, like, I think this guy might be coming open. And he had some space to run and didn't take it. There was definitely more than one time where I saw that and was like, that's weird. Like, he was super hesitant. But I mean, again, like, it is what it is. He was under fire all the time. They only ran 50 plays, 47 before that meaningless final drive. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It was really something. And the defense, though, I think deservedly should get most of the attention here, because this was the worst offense in yards per play that they saw all year. They were, like you said, they were missing a lot of people, including their leading rusher. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't let this offense not only like move up and down the field on you, but like gash you in the middle. Like
I think you had asked. I think it was you on Twitter that asked the question, like, what was like.
Baylor.
It was the Baylor game, 2015, where they didn't have a quarterback. But you have to remember that Baylor, bowl games at that time with transfers and opt-outs and COVID, not the same thing. And Baylor had a pretty good offensive line, and the game plan straight up was, we're going to run it down your throat.
Now they were in the same play all the time, which whatever, but they still had better play.
They had better players. That's the thing. And here's the other part about this game that's pretty eye-opening. And our friend Brian Ives over at the ACC Network pointing out that since 1978, only 2 teams have posted a losing record as a 10-plus point favorite versus an FBS team, minimum 5 games, 1991 Houston and North Carolina. So they went into this game as a pretty considerable favorite. I was watching the ESPN broadcast while you were at the game, and it was alarming to hear the college football crew on ESPN that featured Booger McFarland get into Mack Brown and the coaching staff for the way things played out for North Carolina. Usually Mack Brown, because of his connections to ESPN and the fact that he's universally liked in the college football circles, I very rarely hear legit criticism of how something is going, but I heard it today. Obviously, North Carolina fans were not happy about this. The curiosity that I have going forward is, will Mack Brown actually make any changes, or is he satisfied with the fact that recruiting is going the way that it's going and they feel that they can recruit their way out of the lack of development that we saw on defense this year?
It's like you said, right? I think that's the question. It's do they keep the staff they have, and are the staff members that are there that maybe would get replaced, are they key cogs in the recruiting machine? I mean, I don't. Yeah. I don't know.
We know Dre Bly gets a lot of credit for what's going on.
Dre Bly does, but I've definitely, just chatting with people. I know Jay Bateman is somebody that a lot of the recruits believe in terms of the defensive coordinator. I know that Stacy Searles, the offensive line coach, is another one that recruits very well. But like you said, like at a certain point, let's be real. Like the offensive line got worse. The defense got worse. What do you do with that? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, but they are going to have to find a balance because honestly, like the thing is they were trending up towards the end of the year. They had gotten much better. They looked much better than they did at the beginning of the year. They looked a mess at the beginning of the year. They were at least, they were playing like we thought they were going to offensively. Defensively, they didn't get that much better, right? We understand that. But they were doing enough. Like they were able to get some stops kind of, sort of when they needed it. And the offense was scoring at a high rate. They weren't having as many of those penalties and kind of messing themselves up on drives. And they were doing enough to kind of either be in games or win. And this year, I think the biggest thing with this season versus the first 2 of Mack's return is just that they got blown out and at times by terrible teams. Like South Carolina and Georgia Tech were, I believe, the 2 worst offenses they faced. And they just steamrolled them. That can't happen. Like, it can't. And now you're going to have a new quarterback next year.
Are we? I mean, Sam Howell was very vague about his future in the postgame, Lauren.
I know.
I'm with you on this one. Yeah, Sam Howell is being vague about his future. I think he's going to go pro. Most people expect him to go pro, and he should. Honestly, he should go pro.
Yeah.
Because I'm not quite sure what more he can show you as an NFL prospect with what he did this year. He basically carried that team the best way he could, and took a beating. Now, you're not going to be able to do that in the pros. I think most people understand that. But, and honestly, I think the way the year went for North Carolina might actually help Sam Howell be drafted into a better situation rather than being drafted earlier into a bad team.
The Steelers were at that game. Just saying.
Right. So, I actually think this year is a weird blessing and curse for Sam Howell. The year did not go the way you wanted it to go. He was never in contention for the Heisman, even though he was predicted to be in the contention for the Heisman. The season just fell flat on its face, and it ends with a losing record and everything else. But if you just talk about Sam Howell individually and the way that he was able to show you his toughness to, dual threat QB, the way he was able to absorb tackles, make plays, everything else, I feel like that's going to benefit him when he starts interviewing with NFL teams.
And
again, I don't think he's a first round guy. I don't think they're going to like somebody had said. I think our friend Joe Wagstaff had joked about. You said a lot of people said the same things about Daniel Jones. I'm like, yeah. But I'm not expecting a team like the Giants to draft him in that position, and that's what ultimately is hurting Daniel Jones.
Here's the thing. All I'm saying is this. Every single year we do this, we're like, this is a weak quarterback class. Like,
I know.
Right. And then they always end up getting a run on them. And it is very difficult for me to imagine an NFL team with any sort of QB neediness looking at Sam Howell and going, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I'm with you on that.
So I kind of think he could go in the first round. I've said that all year. I still think that's true. We'll see.
Now, I do think, and we can close on this. I do feel like North Carolina's performance in the Mayo Bowl, combined with the way things went for for NC State in the Holiday Bowl, like basically it's like as somebody tweeted, if you're NC State and you see how things have played out this week, it's just too good, if you will, because you get UCLA to back out of the of the Holiday Bowl in a way that makes it sympathetic for you, in a way that it makes sense for them to just give you the trophy. And then Dave Doran coming back from the Holiday Bowl, and he talks about the NCAA, the no clue at all, or whatever it is that he said. He basically just kind of coming into his own, like, as I jokingly tweeted, like 2021 is the year that Dave Doran finally got over. The wins were there, but the way he also talked about disrespect and everything else and how he handled the Holiday Bowl is going to be a big win for NC State fans. And then when you combine we developed guys, we had depth, we're sending guys to the pros, and then you look across the way, which, as we've discussed in the past, Lauren, when Dave Doran talked about disrespect, what he was really talking about was UNC gets all the attention and we're putting up good numbers and nobody's talking about us. They end the year on a losing note, and I think it all just kind of combines with this good week for NC State if you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, to be fair, I don't know that I think they would have rather played the game.
Oh, do the players want to play the game? Do the coaching staff want to play the game? They absolutely do. However, if we're going to spin this positive, if we're going to make lemonade out of lemons, I don't think you could have asked for a better week, all things considered, with the way this has played out. Just saying. I'm just saying. Especially when you look at the way the ACC has done in bowl games so far.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And I think, and Mac alluded to it too. He's like, well, we're not going to be in the top 10 in the preseason this time, which true.
And that's the thing. That's still, and that's why I have not been impressed with the way that North Carolina has handled the disappointment of this year. There's been a lot of passive aggressiveness that's come out of Chapel Hill that I'm not impressed by. Mac Brown's been doing this too long to be passive aggressive. You either own the fact that you did it or you didn't. And that's the kind of the way that I've looked at it this year. And I'm not saying they can't turn things around. We don't know what Drake May is going to be. But if you look at this season and you don't look at it any way other than we screwed it up, it wasn't the media's fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault. We screwed this up. We had this guy, this generational talent, Sam Howell. We didn't develop our defense the way that people thought we were going to develop the defense. If you don't look inward and own it, then I'm just going to shrug my shoulders and say, I'm not impressed. Just not impressed.
Yeah, I mean, it'll just be interesting to see what they decide to do, because I think I don't know what's wrong with the defense. I'm not a coach. I can't answer that question. Mm-hmm. I know that for 3 years now, it's looked varying degrees of bad, and this year was worse than it had looked in ever.
It's funny. I was thinking about Gene Chizik recently, who was a former defensive coordinator for Carolina.
Probably because he had the hot take tweet about transfer.
He did have yes. I think that's why he came to mind. And
he was still getting paid a big old buyout.
But it's funny. Gene Chizik, the big problem
with NIL, right?
When Gene Chizik was a defensive coordinator, it was the opposite problem. They didn't quite have the talent, but there was at least a game plan of a bend, don't break, and it was understandable what was going on. Yes. Sometimes I wonder what exactly is going on with the defense. And like you said, I'm not a coach. I'm not in the room. I don't know what's being.
And I don't know that it's. I don't know how much.
It doesn't look good. I know what the results are.
So. I don't know how much of it is scheme or how much of it is players. And Mac talked about what he was asked about that. Greg Barnes asked him about that in postgame, and he was kind of like, yes. And I think that he's right. Like, there is an element of that. And there are younger, talented players that will probably get better. They have more coming in too, so that is true. But like you said, we just don't know yet what the development track is, because we just we've obviously seen it with some players, but it hasn't been collectively happening for them in terms of like a unit developing together and improving throughout the year. I would say the coach that probably deserves the most compliments that UNC fans may not want to give it to him is Phil Longo.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I actually think
is he perfect situationally? No, but at the same time, like, look what he did with this offense. Considering what they lost, like, it's bananas. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
not with you.
Carolina went 15 years without a 1,000-yard rusher. They have not. I mean, they've had multiple, like, year after year now since he's been there, and they've been in the top 10 in yards per play and things like that. And I know Sam has a lot to do with that, but Longo does too. Like, you can have a good quarterback and still not put up big numbers. Like, I think Longo deserves some credit with what he's been able to do. Now, the offensive line is another issue, but again, you can only call the plays.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. At some point, we'll talk about ACC basketball when there's a consistent amount of games and we know who's playing when.
Is anybody playing? I mean, I don't.
I mean, State lost last night at Miami.
I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we were supposed to have more basketball games. I don't know when we're going to see more basketball games, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
You have a safe trip back from the Mayonnaise Bowl, Lauren.
Will do.
All right. We'll see y'all later in the week.